Okay, we are live. Shalom, peace be unto you. I want to begin by giving, of course, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. That, of course, is the name of the Heavenly Father in the name of his Son, who the world calls Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Sanctuary of Saints, where our mission is to develop and mature the children of God while building a self sustainable community. Though being inside the sanctuary is strictly for the children of God, I encourage all people to listen that they may live, mature, and one day be of service to the Most High through his people. Okay. So, with that being said, this particular class is inspired, as always, by the Holy Spirit, which is why it is able to be done on a weekly basis. It has been done on a weekly basis for years. When you go back to the moral of the story, right, in which we were primarily focused on character building, to now Way of the Saint, where we're focused on maturity. These classes have been inspired by the Holy Spirit. So either through my life experiences, right, or through the observation of others' lives, right, in person, on the internet, or otherwise. When I go into thinking and meditating on what topic the Holy Spirit is going to have me go into, it is not uh, with the intent to harm anyone. I want to say that just first and foremost. It is not with the intent to offend. It is what the Holy Spirit wants us to all learn from. That's how these classes can happen consistently every week. And so many people feel them, they learn from them. Right? Some people feel like I'm directly talking about their lives when I don't know them. Other people who I do know and know their lives, they feel like I'm talking about their lives because I know it. It's all the same thing. It's all through the leading of the Holy Spirit. I wanted to kind of preface that before I get into the particulars of this class, because there's a reason why I'm saying that. Okay. And so every principle with that understanding, I want to say something that probably will rub some people the wrong way and offend some people. Okay. Every principle I teach in these classes are 100% accurate. Every principle that I teach in these classes, in these spaces, are 100% accurate because the Holy Spirit is 100% accurate, not because of me. It's 100% accurate. You can take it to the bank. Again, I don't have 100% accuracy because some people will say, oh, the brother is teaching he has 100% truth. I'm not. What I am teaching, what I am saying is that in which the Holy Spirit reveals to me and has me say is flawless. It is 100% accurate. Okay. With that being said, the reason I'm saying this is because of a teaching and a principle that I've taught for years. That teaching for years was unchallenged by those who agree we ought to keep the law. In context of arguing, in context of arguing the affirmative. So, brothers, what am I saying? So, brothers in particular that teach we should keep the laws of God as were given to Moses agreed with this principle that I'm going to teach about, right, in context of argumentation and when it would affirm our upholding of the law. For years, brothers did. Brothers that taught and spoke right beside me did that. It's on the replay. Now, with that being said, when I taught that principle in a moral of the story, in context of the obvious wisdom, secretly, certain brothers had an issue with it. And the reason I say secretly is because they didn't challenge me publicly or privately. They disagreed among themselves, and I was only told about it as it was being thrown in my face for being an unfit leader. Now, I'm saying all of this for a reason. It's pertinent to how we got to the lesson. Okay, so that's when that was presented to me, and you taught da 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 da. Okay, when they were publicly offended, they then publicly voiced the disagreement in a scoffing manner, as if I'm wrong and they are right. Subsequently, some of the listeners were, or excuse me, who weren't in that moral of the story, some of those listeners heard maybe a clip or whatever. You didn't sit through the entire class, so you don't know what it was in context of the class. Then they begin to question and make fun of and scoff the idea, some maliciously, some jokingly. Right? This is not like a Maul is mad at everybody who disagrees with him thing. This isn't that. I recognize people who were scoffing, people who had a genuine question, right? And people who had no clue. But nevertheless, the point is that it was because of the way it was presented why we are going to now make things crystal clear here today. Okay. So let me continue. So those who weren't in that moral of the story heard me teach, or heard me teach this years prior to the replays being on, begin to question, make fun of, and scoff the idea that if you don't, in fact, labor and do all your work 6 days, you are in sin. Capital S, capital I, capital N. Now, let's read Exodus chapter 20 and verse 9.
God, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 9. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Okay. This is the way of idleness. 6 days shall thou labor. I remember the same individuals who scoff at the notion that I'm teaching right now hold Christians' feet to the fire. Christians who specifically do not believe we must keep the laws of God. They held their feet to the fire. For example, my good brother who I'm going to be speaking with on Saturday, Jay the Smoke. They held Jay the Smoke's feet to the proverbial fire with the question, with a great question. Can you thou shout a thou shalt not? Can you thou shalt not a thou shalt? Remember that, right? That's a logical, sensible question. Sensible question. Because either you're agreeing that we have to keep the laws of God or we don't. So now, the vice grip is ironically on you. It's tightened around any individual who disagrees with that particular teaching. You not laboring and doing all your work 6 days is thou shalt notting, I'm making that up. Thou shalt notting a thou shalt. That's exactly what you're doing when you say that, when you teach it. Teach that no, you can uh, do some work 4 days and 2 days you can take a vacation, aka not labor or do any work. That's you doing and teaching that you can thou shalt not a thou shalt. It's only that simple. It is a transgression against God's law. This is something that if we were to argue about on stage, you would have to be the position of the Christian. You would have to take that position. You couldn't be the law keeper in the argument. I would be on the side that is in alignment with what the text says, and you would be out of alignment with what the text says. You'd be out of it. It's only go to Leviticus 5 and 17, just so we can make it crystal clear. It's just going to be the same thing. So the first thing is the smoke, right, if you will, or the tea, before we get into the lesson. For any individual that disagrees, and we'll get into all the nuances and your vacations and Deuteronomy, I think 24 and 5. We'll get into all of that for sure. But the first thing is you're wrong. Dead wrong. Read that.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 5, and verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
And if a soul sin and commit any of these things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord, though he wist it not, yet is he guilty, and
Okay.
shall bear his iniquity.
Mm-hmm. So it is a sin if you commit any of those things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord. So I just went there because that's where brothers like to go to qualify what sin is. It's a violation of the commandments. Obviously, we go to the more famous 1 John 3 and 4, dealing with sin being the transgression of the law. If you only work 5 days of the week, labor and do your work 5 days of the week and not six, then you broke that law. All right, does that make sense?
It absolutely does make sense. Crystal clear.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that I was talking sensibly here to Hebrew Israelites in particular. It's going to get into a good lesson for those that just come to be edified. But first, we just have to deal with the elephant in these rooms. When I went into a clubhouse room, I heard, it was towards the end, I was getting ready to have a conversation with Jay, and I heard that, right? I didn't focus on it at that time, but I said, okay, so that means I have to revisit it then and teach that point as the centerpiece so that Israel understands. Okay. It was ironic because that lesson that I taught was, uh, I think it was entitled "Stop Being Lazy and Put in the Work." So most people took that as they should have, but the ones that took it the wrong way, well, I won't expound further, right? But it's definitely I definitely understand why you took it that way. Okay. So now the Most High didn't give us this law. Now we're going to get into the actual lesson. The Most High didn't give this law to take away quote unquote vacations. This law doesn't eliminate a quote unquote vacation. He gave the law to prevent you from being idle. This is what this law is for. It's to steer you from idleness. This is why the class is entitled "The Way of Idleness: 6 Days Shall Thou Labor." So idle, I actually used this definition from the King James Bible Dictionary. It has some really good definitions there. So for the purpose of this class, I'm actually going to go through idleness quite extensively as it pertains to a definition. So idle is one. So there's 8 points. I won't read the entirety of them all, but I will read, the main points. So idle, one, not employed, unoccupied with business, inactive, doing nothing. All of those things encompass what it means to be idle. Not employed, so that's dealing with obviously your employment and how you generate funds to provide for yourself, right? Occupied with business, that goes into your personal endeavors, your personal business. You can be employed and then you can have, what you would call a side hustle, if you will, in today's terms. Something of a skill or whatever that you do that occupies your time. Inactive, it means inactive. That's what idle means. It means you're not doing anything. Inactivity. All right. And of course, the other word was literally doing nothing. This is what it means to be idle. And this is why we have the law that we have. We are not, as Israelites, we are not an idle people. We are a very industrious people. We work. Right? That's our culture. It's our custom. It's our traditions. Is to work, and specifically in agriculture. Now, I'm not saying we have to now stop our skills and all become farmers, but this is who we are historically as a people. Two, second definition, slothful. Slothful, okay, means given to rest and ease. So slothful is not to be confused with actually resting. Slothful means given to rest and ease. It means when you should be working, you're not, you're resting. That's what it means to be slothful. Slothful. That's how you would determine, okay, well, what if I'm just taking a nap? Or what if I'm just super tired and I slept for 8 hours? Am I lazy? No, that's not it. No, slothful is in context of when you should be working, when you should be active. Okay? Not giving full or maximum effort during your labor is also considered slothful. Three, affording leisure, right? Vacant, not occupied. Remaining unused. Notice it's saying remaining. So it's talking about a state, a continued state of rest, a prolonged state of rest that would overlap the time when you should be working. Al Harani, are you still following me so far in this breakdown?
God.
God, all praises. Anybody can let me know in the chat if you have a question or you don't understand. Okay. Trifling, meaning vain, of no importance. 8, unprofitable. These are all the synonyms of being idle out of the KJV. Now, when we read Exodus 20 and verse 9, okay, that word labor there, read it again, actually, if you could, please.
God. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Come. So labor is Strong's H5647, and it means to work in any sense. It's in the little parentheses. So to work is the definition, and then it says in any sense. Okay. So labor is by implication to serve. It says that after. It says to work in any sense, by implication, to serve. Okay. So this word laboring is implying service. The understanding of this word labor is service. It's work in any sense, so it can encompass all manner of work, but in particular, it's talking about service. That's how the word is utilized. Okay. Go to Galatians chapter 5 and 13. Read that.
God. This is the book of Galatians, chapter 5 and verse 13. For, brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law
You
is
see that?
fulfilled. Salakia.
Stop, Slovakia. But serve one another. So labor is in context of service. And in scripture, and others as well, right, as he's about to read, we are to serve or labor for each other. Okay? Now finish that verse that you were reading.
God. Verse 14. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
So loving your neighbor as yourself is, which is we all know to be the chief, or you should know to be the chief and principal commandment, in which the rest of them hang, according to Christ. So service or labor is in context of your work, your personal endeavors, and your service to others. Okay. Now, when we look at that word work in Exodus 29, it's Strong's H4399. Okay. And it is ministry, generally employment or work, also property, business, cattle, industrious use. Work is in context of employment. This is my words now. Work, or these are my words. Work is in context of employment or employer, but it is also in context of your skill. So understand that. That word work is in context of your employment or your employer, but it also is in context of your skill. Okay. I'm saying this for a reason, and I'm going to prove that. Go to Exodus chapter 35, and you're going to read verse 31 through 33.
God. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 35, starting at verse 31.
Mm-hmm.
And he hath filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship.
And all manner of what?
In all manner of workmanship.
That word workmanship is the same Strong's word in Exodus 20 and 9. Okay. But we see that's in context of what? Skill. Keep reading.
Verse 32. And to devise curious works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, and in the cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work.
So that word cunning work, right? That word work there is also the same word. So this is the proof of what I'm saying. This is where I would go to demonstrate, hey, it's also in context of skill. Okay. So when we put all of this together, right, to perfectly, Lord willing, explain the totality, right? To give the sense in totality of Exodus chapter 20 and verse 9. To labor and to do all your work encompasses your employment, your personal business, your skill, and your service to others. Okay? I'm going to say that again. The what encompasses labor and work in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 9 is your employment, your personal business if you are an employer, your skill, right, which can be employed or unemployed. Right? My skill right now, for example, is currently unemployed. I'm a musician, I'm a drummer specifically, and I'm currently unemployed. All right. But guess what I've been doing as the Lord has really kind of gotten on me again about this, practicing on my pad again. All right. That is labor. Okay. So if I practice on my pad for 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 hours in a day, I perform that duty. Does that make sense, Aaron?
God, I,
Want
I
to make sure.
completely I completely get where you coming from. Like I understand it is a work to do those extra things. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's the point. The point is that when the Bible is saying to labor, it's saying to perform, like in the context of the skill that I'm saying, to perform your skill. Shoot in the gym before your basketball game. It's just it's that's what it's going into. You do that for 6 days. That's what you do. So this this should answer all the, we're going to talk extensively about vacations, right? But this should answer a lot of questions. So you're telling me if I have a business and I work 3 days and I decide I don't want to do my business the other 3 days, I'm in sin? Not necessarily. Did you do anything to offend the Lord?
It could just be me, but you just went
No, I'm back on now. Yeah, I was having some issues on YouTube.
con.
Right? So I did see that as well. So that's what I'm. Let me get back to the point. Salaki. So this is what it means. Right? You're encompassing your skill, your labor. If you are an employer, you're an employer. That's what you're doing. You're serving others. That's what you're doing 6 days a week. So to answer the question, if I do my 3 days in business, and in my other 3 days I don't want to work the business, are you telling me I'm in sin? Yes, if you're not doing anything else. But if you are doing other things, you're serving others, if you're working on a skill, you wouldn't be in violation. But the issue is a lot of us are idle here. We have a culture of Netflix and chill. We have a culture of not doing anything. There's a song, it, I'm not going to sing it, but it goes, "Today I don't feel like doing anything." Right. And it's a popular song. I just want to chill. Right. I want to prop my feet up. That's the culture that we have. And there's an issue with that. Right. We're going to talk about what that issue is. Well, more. Why can't I be idle? Why can't I be slothful? Okay. Do we see a judgment attached to it? No, we don't see a specific judgment attached for the breaking of this law. Just like we don't see a judgment attached to the breaking of the the law, the law of all laws. Go to Leviticus chapter 19 and read verse 17.
It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him.
Right. So we don't see a judgment. If you do, then you must be put to death. We don't see a judgment for directly, but what we do know is that the wages of sin is death. That's what we do know. We do know that if you violate it, right, the curses will follow. Just like there's not a um, a judgment attached to this, but there's consequences. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Um, Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. No, we don't have to. Yeah. I'm going to get that later on. I'm kind of jumping the gun, I think. So the point was made. We don't see judgments attached to every single law. So that's why there's some gray areas and, things like that. But today we're going to go into the consequences, okay? The consequences of being idle, the consequences of being in violation of this law, which a lot of us, we do take days. Some of us don't, right? If it doesn't apply to you, then this should just reinforce, and actually I'll strengthen what you're doing already. But if you aren't in this mode, then this lesson should light a fire up under you to come out of sin, to come out of it. Okay. So let's talk about vacations. Okay? Vacations. So if you go on a vacation, which is simply what a vacation is simply an extended period of leisure and recreation. That's what a vacation is. It's an extended period of leisure or recreation. You still should be laboring there and not break this law. For example, Feast of Tabernacles. Right? Feast of Tabernacles is when is what most brothers would call a vacation. Right? You put in your notice to your job. They might give you the whole time off. They might give you 3 or 4 days. It's considered a vacation to you and to your job because you're not doing your employment. Right? But when you come to the feast, you still should labor. You still should work. For example, myself, I had a vacation. Obviously, I went out to Feast of Tabernacles and had a wonderful time with the brothers from No Cap. Right? But I was laboring out there. I was on a vacation, meaning I wasn't working and doing my job at my job officially, even though I was doing that too. I made a business call and closed the deal, right, which is a separate point. But yes, I had my leisure. Right? It was extended, but I was still laboring, service, right? Helping put up tents, and cooking, and picking up trash, helping move people's items, right? That's all labor. I wasn't the brother at the feast that had his feet kicked up the whole time, watching everybody else get everything done. I wasn't that kind of brother. Okay? And that is what the law is going into. You still labor on your vacation. At my job, right? Individuals were teaching us and kind of inspiring us. You know how you get the team meeting going and then you give motivation. So if you perform to a certain level, every 2 to 3 months they have a vacation for you. They will fly you to Puerto Rico or they will fly you to Cancun, somewhere around the world. They will do that if you produce so many numbers. And they were letting us know, the top producers, that when they go there, they're still working. When they're on vacation, they're still answering calls from their downlines and assisting them with their deals. issues that they need help with while they're literally in the office. You can work on your quote unquote leisure vacations where you're going across the country to see such and such, or you're going to Disney World. The whole day should not be spent in leisure. If you want to call it anything, is that you are just now, um, you know, putting more emphasis on the leisure than the work. But the work never stops outside of the Shabbat, or it's a sin. It's only that simple. So instead of trying to disagree with it or finding a reason to disagree with the teaching that is obvious and on the paper due to the circumstance of a quote unquote vacation, which I don't see in the Bible anywhere, by the way. I don't see that concept anywhere. We're going to talk about Deuteronomy 24 and 5, I believe. Or I could be misquoting the verse, but we'll get to it. It's in my notes. I don't see any vacation in the Bible, right? Whereby you simply kick your feet up for days in a row and don't do anything. Were you just watching TV and not doing any? I don't see that there in the text. I see that actually not being a thing. Okay. But just for the immature of us sake, if you go on a vacation, air quotes, you're still bound to keep the laws of God. Just because you might have decided to go a place where your daily routines aren't in effect anymore doesn't mean you can now violate Exodus 20 and 9. You can't do it, no matter what. So hopefully everyone understands. Okay. So now, the only reasonable objection was this law. Go to Deuteronomy 24, I think it's 5. I think that's what I want. Deuteronomy 24 and 5. What does that read?
God. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24 and verse 5. When a man hath taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business,
Mhm.
but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he hath taken.
Now, this is a reasonable objection, all right, to the point of it being a sin not to work 6 days. Because what if I'm doing and performing this law? It's reasonable, but again, the brother I feel like that raised this one, you're better than that. I know you are. You're smarter than that. You know how, if you would have studied and just meditated, how to reconcile this. It's not that deep. Now, to a novice or someone who is just hearing this read, they might say, "Oh, that's a solid point." But brothers that are more learned, it should not have been that difficult to reconcile, right? You had to have kind of wanted to, this is in my opinion, to lean that way toward disagreement and not agreement. You should have just the focus of the conversation should have been, how is Maul right about what God is clearly saying in the text, not why he's wrong. The fact that the spirit was why he's wrong is very telling. I just thought that I should say that out loud. Okay. These are I don't let all the issues of my heart come out as it pertains to all of that, but sometimes it is uh, important to say. Okay. So a man taking a wife becomes exempt from war and is not to be charged with any business. That's what this law says. So the exemption is war and being charged with any business. Now, people might look at that and say, well, the business, that means work. Remember, it encompasses what? Work as an occupation. If you are an employer, service and skill. This is just saying someone who's a soldier, he does not go to war. He does not actually fight in the battle. He can still perform his service, to he's no not his service to the military, but he's still performing a service even within this law. There's still work being done within this law. So he can't go to war or he can't be charged with any business. Now let's go into that. All right. Business is Strong's H1697. It means a word, by implication, a matter or thing. So business doesn't mean like employment here. This is not like, oh, nobody can make me do any work. Brothers like read that law and you heard, I don't have to work for a year. It's just a honeymoon with my wife and we kicking our feet up. And that's not what this law is saying. It doesn't mean that. Okay. Go to 2 Samuel 11, verse 18.
This is the book of Second Samuel, chapter 11, and verse 18. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war,
Mm-hmm.
and charged the messenger, saying, when thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if
Stop right
so
there.
be God.
So, because yeah, I could tell you how you read it. You didn't understand the point. We killed two birds with one stone. Okay?
You want me to read it
Because
again?
no, we don't have to.
God.
All right. So, war is a topic. Charge the messenger is there. Right? Matters is there. So the point that I brought us here to is to understand what that law that we just read means in context of real life. Right? You can't have some when a brother takes a new wife. Okay, that's actually like a polygyny cut right there as well. When a brother takes a new wife, okay, you cannot command him to do your bidding. You can't say, "Hey, brother, I need you to go and run and tell this person to do this." No, he's not bound to assist you in your matters. His time and energy and service is strictly toward his wife during this year. That's what this law is saying. It has nothing to do with inactivity or leisure, right? You're, it is redirecting your service. It's redirecting your labor. It's saying your labor isn't focused here. Your labor is focused on who? Your wife. Your service toward her. That is what that law is going into. It doesn't absolve you from Exodus chapter 20 and 9 being a sin if you're in violation of it. All right. So hopefully brothers understand that. Now, let's go to Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 23 to get into why this commandment that we see in Exodus 20 and 9 is important to uphold.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, and verse 23.
Mhm.
For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life.
Okay. So the commandment is a lamp, Salaki. The commandment is a lamp and the law is light. We forget that the commandments are wisdom. So this here, that verse is a wisdom to guide you, to keep you in the light, out of darkness. Working, laboring 6 days, that's the light. Idleness, that's darkness in this context. We forget that our laws also are wisdom. I know we talk about Proverbs being a wisdom book and Sirach being a book of wisdom, Ecclesiastes. But the law is also a book of wisdom. And so this is a wisdom, just like when the law says that you should be speaking to your children morning, noon, and night about these commandments. That's a wisdom. That's a guideline, if you will. And that's how the law works. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you take heed. So the Most High Himself worked 6 days. There was no day off. He looked in His work and said it was good. The reason why the seventh day is hallowed, which is what we're observing today, most of us here, is because work was done 6 days. That's why there is a hallowing of the reason there's a hallowing of the seventh day is because work was done 6 days and completed then. That's when God decided this is the end. This is when work should end. This is when work should stop. It should begin day one. It should end day six. That's where you get day seven from. Exodus chapter 20, verse 11.
God. It's the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them is,
Mhm.
and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
You see that? So it says, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. This is all his work and all his labor and all his undertaking, his service to humanity. I've given this all to you, be fruitful and multiply. I raised up a man to till the ground. The Lord did all this. And so, since he did all this and said it was good, he hallowed the seventh day. So, your actual work is in context of a 6 day work week. You can't separate the two, can't make it not a thing. You can't make it this heavy. This is what Christ meant when he was telling the Pharisees, right, and the leadership, you can't make void the laws, or you make void the law of God with your tradition. To be quite frank with you, a vacation is a tradition of men, brother, sister. That's what a vacation is. It's a tradition of men. You cannot void the law of God with your tradition of a vacation. It's a tradition of men and not even our forefathers, I might add, right? I hope people really do watch this later, because I don't want to necessarily um, engage with fools about this topic going forward. I'll refer you to this room. Okay. So again, the Most High did not take, you know, Exodus 29 and think about it like, I want to stop brothers and sisters from having like leisure time and downtime. That's not what he was thinking. It's not what he had in mind. Shouldn't look at it that way. Okay. So being idle is a great catalyst to sin. This is the point. Being idle is a great catalyst to sin. Now, I'm just going to read this version of the Bible to make the point. So you're going to go to Proverbs chapter 16, verse 27 and 28, but you're going to read it in the TLB, the TLB, when you get a chance to put that in.
Can you repeat that one more time like I'm going?
Proverbs 16,
Con.
verse 27 and 28 in the TLB.
T.
You should probably type it in Google.
Con. You see, I'm downloading it.
No, I can read it, bro, if it's too much.
Con.
All right. Bear with me. It reads, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. I'll just read verse 27. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. Now, this is not a translation that I would use in any type of formal debate or scholastic discussion. Right? But I'm simply using this point here, this version here, to make the point that even there's versions of the Bible that understand this proverb to mean that. Okay? Because it is a truth, and we can verify that through other scriptures that are more clean. Right? Idle hands is the devil's workshop. You might have heard that before. An idle mind, right, is the devil's playground. You might have heard that before. It is true. It is an actual biblical concept. Okay. So go to the book of First Timothy 5, verse 13.
Con. This is the book of First Timothy, chapter 5, and verse 13. And withal, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not.
You see that? So what happens is, first of all, idle is something that you learn, right? You learn from what? Inactivity. Right? So that's why people are just when you describe somebody as lazy, that's what you mean. You mean they are inactive when they should not be inactive. That's a learned behavior. When people are working and busy and doing things and you're sitting down and kind of just that's a learned behavior. It means you have some like you've seen that in your family, right? Nobody says, "Hey, get up, tighten up your belt, put your boots on, straighten up your back, and go and shovel." You haven't had anybody in your life to influence you to work and be industrious, to learn behavior. But moreover, notice what it's saying. You wander about from house to house when you're idle. You're just gallivanting around and you're getting in other people's business. You're meddling, right? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's this? And you're saying things you shouldn't be saying. So when you become in a state of idleness, right, when you are in a state of idleness, rather, you are going to be prone to backbiting, tail bearing, right? Saying all manner of wickedness because you're inactive. So if you're inactive, that means you're not focused and concentrating on the things that the Most High wants you to focus on. And so Satan can come in and influence you. And this is what happens to most of our people. Most of our people aren't even like willingly wicked, like, I hate the Most High and I don't want to learn any of his ways. We simply do not want to take the time or do the labor necessary to understand what the Most High wants us to do and not do. And I've seen that happen so many times, where people don't come into the truth, not because they don't agree with what I'm saying, but they will not take the time. They will not do the due diligence. They will not do the labor, the work to find out what they won't read to find out what the Lord wants them to do and not to do. Even if they listen to this message, they'll hear it and they'll say, "Yeah, brother, you right on." but then they won't actually do the work of coming out of inactivity. They won't unlearn the idleness. And that's what the majority of our people's issue is. That's why this class is so important, and it was so important for me to defend the exact teaching, how it was taught, because you have to know it is sin. It has to be in that context, so you know you can't do it. You can't be idle. You can't be inactive. All right, and we'll get into the specific times because now I'm going to make sure that I cover as many angles and bases as possible for the questions that I know um, Hebrew Israelites are going to ask in particular. Okay, so keep reading.
Gone. This is the book of First Timothy chapter 5 and now verse 14. I will therefore that the younger woman marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully.
So now he's giving the younger women who are idle instructions on how to come out of idleness. All right. You're idle, you're in everybody's business, you're going up and down gossiping, you're tail bearing, right? Because you're inactive. You're not keeping Exodus 20 and verse 9. You don't have employment. Right? I understand that. It's women. So a lot of women, they might not have, during that time, had formal employment or a husband. So now he gives them guidance. He gives them a task. He gives them tasks, labors, so that they come out of idleness. And then he lists them, right? He says, marry, bear children, right? These are labors, undertakings. Guide the house. Give none occasion for the enemy to speak reproachfully. So a lot of your work is simply so that you don't give anybody occasion to say, oh, such and such was over here saying this. Such and such was over here doing this. Right? No, such and such was over here doing her work. I was over here planting my garden at the time where you are suggesting that I was over. You have an alibi. That's the point. You're not supposed to be idle. And so Paul's brilliant, by the way. Paul offers a solution to breaking and violating Exodus 20 and 9. Keep reading.
Gone. Verse 15. For some are already turned aside after Satan.
Mm. For some are already turned aside after Satan. That's in context of what? Being idle. Being idle will turn you aside after Satan. That's the literal verse in the KJV that I'll go to substantiate what happens when you become idle. You turn aside to Satan. You face in that direction. That's how come the commandment is a lamp and the law is light. The lamp is supposed to keep you in the path of righteousness so that you do not turn out of the path to the left hand or to the right hand to Satan. It's a very simple concept. Okay. So now let's go to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 9.
Gone. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 18 and verse 9.
Mhm.
He also that is slothful in his work is is brother to him that is a great waster.
So idleness is also accompanied by being wasteful. People that waste things, throw things out, let things spoil. Man, I forgot I had that over there. I was supposed to put that up. I was supposed to cut that up and it's spoiled. because you were idle. You was watching TV the whole day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll get to it later." All right, that's how you waste things as well. So when you are idle, you are wasteful. That comes alongside it. Besides being turned to Satan, which should scare you half to death. It should scare you half to death that being idle means you being turned aside to Satan. That violating Exodus 20 and verse 9 means you are turning aside to Satan. That's the punishment of it. You are delivered to Satan to do whatever it is he would like to do to you, which we all know is ultimately to kill you, to destroy you. That should scare you half to death. But if that doesn't, it also will cause you to waste a lot of things. Time being chief. Okay. So let's go to the next wisdom. Proverbs chapter 24, excuse me, verse 30. Proverbs 24 and verse 30.
Come. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 24 and verse 30. I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and needles had covered Salakia, and needles had covered the face thereof.
Right. So when you become slothful, when you become idle, the things that you cherish, the things that you look forward to seeing and being comfortable in, they begin to break down. They begin to decay. They begin to suppress profitability when you're idle, when you're slothful. Okay. So the things that you do have going for you quickly become not positive. So brothers that are what idle and have their own business, your business comes to naught. Your business will fail because you're idle. And that's what people's business were back then. As I said before, we were an agrarian society. We had crops and we had cattle. Okay? So if a brother was lazy, if he was idle during his occupation, you could what? You can lose a sheep. All right, sheep will run off, fall into a ditch because you just twiddling your thumbs all day when you should be watching. Okay? It has consequences. It will affect your possessions and the things that you value most. And that goes all the way to even people. If you do not maintain and work on your relationship with people, that will deteriorate. Those that are married, you understand very well what I'm saying. You don't work on these things, they deteriorate. Keep reading.
Come. And the stone wall thereof was broken down.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep.
See
So
that?
shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man.
See that? So what he's saying, I learned something. A little this and a little that, aka being idle. And it doesn't take you long to fall into idleness because what happens is when you fall into idleness, when you learn idleness, it becomes a habit. That's why it's hard for people to come out of it. That's how come the individual who actually came to me on the topic of the lesson, ironically, said, "Man, I know I got a problem with that. I find myself just tweedling my thumbs for hours, man. I gotta do better." And you can't do it because it's, or I shouldn't say you can't. You're having an issue doing it because it's something that's learned. It's a habit. You have a habit of inactivity for long stretches of time. And so instead of coming out of it, you will find a way to justify it by disagreeing with the Bible that you don't disagree with in context of argumentation. We have to make sure that we like remain practical in this thing. So this is what the proverb is. I just saw all it takes is a little bit of idleness, because this is going to answer the question for people, which would say, well, how much time is considered before you are idle, right? What is the time? Israel, Black and Hispanics, we have to like, you know, find the loophole in every single wisdom. We have to do it. So I know somebody is going to hear this, or somebody's listening now and saying to themselves, well, how much time is considered inactive? Because it sounds like the brother just wants us to be robots and to be moving around all the time and not to never kick our feet up. I know that is you. So this wisdom says all it takes is a little bit of time. So it's something for you to be conscious of. What the Spirit has been dealing with me, and I'll answer that question further at the end of class. But the Spirit was dealing with me on making sure I track what I'm doing through my day. I've been doing that for probably I'm fresh at it, probably the last 2 weeks. What did you do today? Because the time is at hand. Well, that's the main point in all of this. The main point in all of this, the time for like slothfulness and idleness and vacations is over with if you're wise. With that being said, the Spirit has been dealing with me on tracking my days. What are you doing? What did you get done? What did you accomplish? And then I go back over myself and say, did I do this? Did I make some money today? Did I do my workout today? Did I read today? Did I pray today? What could I have done more? Well, I couldn't have done that because this call happened. That's what you should be doing to make sure that you don't learn idleness. So now let's go to Second Thessalonians. Actually, yeah, Second Thessalonians 3, verse 11.
Con. This is the book of Second Thessalonians, chapter 3, and verse 11. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly.
So now we hear that some walk among you disorderly. So let's see what is disorderly. Read.
God. Walking not at all, but are busybodies.
Yeah. So what's disorderly is you're not working or doing anything at all. You're a busybody. It's Paul calls it disorderly. Being idle is disorderly conduct. Read.
God. Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread.
See that? In quietness. Work, make money, and take care of yourself. Read.
God. But ye, brethren, be
Mm-hmm.
not weary in well doing. And if any man obey not our word by this epistle, note that man, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed.
See that? So idleness was treated with shame. Very shameful thing. Note him. So that means you're supposed to notice somebody. If somebody's idle and not, uh, trying to take care of themselves, just simply riding everybody's coattail. We're not talking about brothers and sisters that need help and need assistance because they're in work, but they just, had an unfortunate time or got fired. We're not talking about those individuals. Specifically, it's idle individuals, people who just are like this. You look at them all the time, and it's like, okay, well, we said we were going to do this. When are we going to start working on this? Oh, yeah, I got you. I'm going to get to that. Yeah, we are going to do that. We're going to do that then. Those kind of people that you could have been working to take care of yourself, but you can't because you weren't working. So not you're hungry because, you know, you fell and you broke your leg and you were at work and now there's no workman's comp and you need some assistance. No, you just didn't feel like doing anything today. You didn't feel like going to find a job. That is what Paul is saying. You note those people and you separate from them, that they may be ashamed. So the goal is to shame them or to shame them rather out of idleness. That's what Paul's wisdom literally is to his church. Yes, this is a shame, and we should treat you this way. So that goes for the people that would say, well, you shouldn't have been talking like that and mentioning certain things and certain situations and, talking about brothers that we know you're talking about. And Paul did. Paul took it a step further to say, do it on purpose. Note them and then separate from them for the purpose of shame. And that is what it's for. Right? It's for the purpose of shame. I want to shame you out of that doctrine. I want to shame you out of that understanding. Shame on you. That's the point. Okay. And the rest of you learn the wisdom and apply it. All right. So there's more I could get to. I think we made that point. Go to Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23. Proverbs 14, verse 23.
God, it's the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, and verse 23.
Hmm?
In all labor, there is profit.
See that? In all labor, there is profit. All labor, whether it's for an employer, whether you're working for yourself, whether you are uh, honing or practicing a skill, working a skill, right? Whether you are servicing others, helping other brothers and sisters. There's profit in all of that because the Lord will reward you. And even for your service towards others, especially for your service towards others. Okay? These are considered works. Okay? So go to now Sirach chapter 20, oh, excuse me, 11, chapter 11 and verse 20, 20 and 21.
God, it's the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 11, and verse 20. Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work.
And saying, do what?
Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be
Mhm.
conversant therein, and wax old in thy work.
So a covenant is an agreement. All right. So it's saying, be strong, uphold your ends of agreements, and be conversant therein, meaning be understanding of what your agreement is to the T. Be able to talk about it and parse it out, right? Be skillful. That's what it's saying. And then it says, grow old in your labor, all right? So we should be laboring, period. Doesn't matter how old you are. Oh, brother, I'm retired. I'm 70 years old. I'm retired. Okay. Okay. So keep reading.
God. Verse 21. Marvel not at the works of sinners,
Hmm.
but trust in the Lord, and abide in thy labor,
And do what?
and abide in thy labor.
Right. So a lot of us become idle and we become like, hey, I'm gonna just do get rich quick schemes and we throw out helping everybody else and just I'm just gonna focus on like being a hustler because I'm seeing this hustler over here and I'm seeing him scam people and I'm seeing him sell drugs to people, right? I'm seeing him con people. Okay. So that seems like the best route. And look, if he's prosperous, he doesn't want for anything. They got the nice chains, they got the big house, they got all the women chasing after them. This is saying don't marvel at their works. So that also goes to show, hey, work can be done in righteousness and in wickedness. Work has to be in context of what is lawful, everybody. It's not lawful to be a drug dealer, it's witchcraft. You can't be a pimp, you can't pimp the daughters of Zion. The daughters of Zion can't be prostitutes. These are laws. These are practices or works that are forbidden. So it is in context of righteous work. Okay. Read on.
Gone. But trust in the Lord and abide in thy labor, for
Mhm.
it is an easy thing in the sight of the Lord on the sudden to make a poor man rich.
See that? Abide in your labor. And that's how we know it's in context of like work for profit in this case. It says abide in it. That means you're in it constantly. You're not, I don't, again, I don't see the concept, the American concept that we now have here as captives as a vacation. And I don't see that, a vacation there. Again, I'm for the immature audience, I'm not saying you can't take a vacation. I'm saying you have to work during it. You have to labor during whatever vacation you decide to take. All right. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 18.
Gone. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5 and verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor, that he taketh, Salakia, that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life,
Oh,
which
wait,
God,
some of the days of his life.
all the days of his life.
So that's more clarity. It's a good thing, but it's talking about labor in the context of all the days of your life. It's a good thing for you to enjoy it. All right, read.
Which God giveth him, for it is his portion.
Because what?
For it is his portion.
The labor, the work that you do is your portion in this life. It is the thing that should bring about fulfillment and satisfaction to you. This is why it is important not to be idle, not to be lazy, because your work, your labor is your portion in life. That is the thing that you should look at and say, ah, this was good. Just like the Lord on the sixth day, or Salakia on the seventh day. It's the sixth day when he declared that it was good. He looked on all his work and said it was good. Same principle. That's what we should be doing. 6 working days, resting the seventh day. 6 working days, resting the seventh day. That is our portion. That's how he set it up and arranged it. Don't try to circumvent that with a vacation, right? What verse were you at?
I would be at verse 19 now.
Read verse 19.
God. Verse 19. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God.
And that's a gift of God. The fact that you are able to, right? You have the ability to work and to do things and to make things and to serve others. That's a gift from the Lord. We should be looking at it as such. See, sometimes we take for granted those things. And when we do, the Lord will have his way of showing us the thing that we take for granted. All right. And he will do that in these times. You take for granted the fact that you can actually go and get 2 jobs. You can actually go and get 2 jobs if you wanted to. Right now, you're like, man, it's too much time, it's too much work, it's too much, but you need those 2 jobs to take care of your bills. AI is coming to eliminate at least one of those jobs. You will look back and say, man, I wish I had that other job to make ends meet. That'll happen. Okay. So we should be uh, thinking about the opportunity to work, to labor as a gift from God, not something to be avoided or to look forward to ending. Okay. We should be the energizer bunny. And the seventh day is to recharge our battery. Okay. So, someone may ask, for example, I'm not going to read this for time's sake. Matthew 21 through 6, you can read that. That's where I would get the wisdom on if someone would say, well, how much time until I'm considered idle or inactive? Right? Quantify that for me, Maul. That's a great question. It's fair, but um, it also shows what kind of a person that you are currently. You're currently a person who is looking to, um, you know, to test to see how idle you can be or how inactive you can be until it's a problem. All right, rather than taking it for what it is. So if I have to give a specific time frame, I would find that in the parable that Christ gave in Matthew 21 through 6, where he was the owner and went out into his vineyard at morning, at the third hour, I believe it was the sixth hour and the ninth hour, to look and see men idle and call them to do the work. Uh, so my wisdom would be based off of that parable. Anything, you know, more than a few hours of inactivity, you need to start checking yourself and getting up and getting mobile. If you're going to be good, if you're going to be great in the kingdom, right? That would be my wisdom based off of what I see here. It would be anything really more over like a few hours of just, you know, and this is not including sleep, obviously. Well, brother, you saying I can't sleep? Now, I will tell you the super wealthy and the rich, they will tell you they only sleep 4 to 5 hours. They will tell you when I go on vacation, there is really no vacation. I'm still working. That's what they will tell you. I'm not saying you can't sleep your 8 hours. I'm saying when we're talking about inactivity, it's in the context of when you are awake, obviously. Uh, so you shouldn't be sleeping all day though either. That's why Proverbs said a little sleep, a little folding of the hands. Now it's not like a little as in like literally 10 minutes of sleep. It's saying like sleeping, like you thinking it's okay to sleep in one whole day. That's the context of that wisdom. Not for a few hours. It's we have to parse through these things because you know where people are mentally. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way. I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I just want to make sure I cover as many bases as possible because I know that people have these questions. So that's where I would get my wisdom. You really shouldn't be um, inactive during the times where you are not dedicating towards sleep and recovering. Shouldn't be more than three hours at a time. That's about a time that a football game or a basketball game is on, right? 2 3 hours. So it shouldn't be like you watching 12 straight hours of football like this, right? In between a game, you need to get up and do something. You need to do something for 15 20 minutes. If it's halftime, you need to go and read or something. That's what I'm essentially saying. That's how this principle works. Okay, for those that would ask or would need clarity on that question. Now, I heard another brother ask in it was like a joking way. It was a joking way, I would say. His spirit was seeming to be joking, but it was a serious question. He says, "Now, if I violate this law, is the kingdom not for me? Right? Can I not get the kingdom if I only work 3 days and don't work the other?" I'll let the Bible answer it. All right. It was a it was a smart question But Christ gives the answer. Matthew 5 and verse 19.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments,
Mm-hmm.
and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
Mm, that's the answer. So if you don't work 6 days and you teach that you can work 5 days and take a vacation on a 6 day if you want to, if you do that, then you will be called least in the kingdom. That's my answer. So my answer is not that the kingdom wouldn't be for you necessarily, but you wouldn't be great in it according to Christ, because that's one of the least commandments. If you work in 6 days, we kind of skip over that thing. That's like a least commandment, like your fringes, ones that you feel are like inconsequential. Those are the least commandments that Christ is talking about. Because that's what you feel. You feel like this commandment here is inconsequential. That's why you're saying, well, it's not a sin because you didn't understand or you didn't uh, compute the consequence of breaking that. You didn't see and imagine that there's a consequence for being in violation of that law. How can it be? We can take a vacation, right? So you would be called least in the kingdom. Okay. Now, hopefully that was clean right on the paper. I feel like. Now, as far as the mentality, this is the last point I'm going to make. One of the second to last point I'm going to make. As far as the mentality, you should have, as far as your labor during these perilous times, is found here. Go to Second Esdras chapter 16. So I want to kind of summarize this and put the work that we should be doing now in context of the times we are currently living in. Read on.
You want me to start from verse 1?
Verse 40, please. My bad.
It's the book of Second Esdras, chapter 16, and verse 40. O my people, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth.
Read.
He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose.
Mm-hmm.
He that occupieth merchandise as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein.
Read.
He that soweth is as if he should not reap. So also he that planteth the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes.
Read.
They that marry, as they that shall get no children,
Mm-hmm.
and they that marry not, as the widowers.
Read.
And therefore they that labor, labor in vain.
So the mentality that we should have in respect of all of our works, as this kind of list here, during these times, as it should be as if there won't be profit. But notice it's still saying you're working. You're still working. You're building houses. You're selling things. You're buying things, right, for profit, to turn a profit. You're starting families. You're building houses. You should be doing those things, but in context of, hey, I probably won't profit off of this. I might not profit off of this. So don't grow too attached to it. Yes, we know the labor is your portion, but we're at a time now, right, of judgment. So your labor being your portion in the earth right now, your portion is judgment. Okay, your portion is judgment. We are deemed as a people under judgment. So we have to still keep the context of Exodus chapter 20 and 9 in mind. Yes, we should be working, we should be industrious, but as it pertains to the wisdom that we read about in Ecclesiastes, that your work is your portion and something you should rejoice in, okay? You now have to to I wouldn't say disregard that wisdom, but you now have to put that wisdom in context of what God is saying this time is now. So you shouldn't be expecting the enjoyment. out of your labor, but you still should be laboring during these times, nevertheless, because we have been called to a great undertaking, Israel, and that is to gather. And I don't think that people understand that gathering actually takes work. Right? It implies work. Us coming together and gathering together. The only way that we can do that is if we put our egos, excuse me, and pride to the side and begin to serve one another, right? To labor for one another, aka love one another, as Paul was going into. Zephaniah 2 and 1. In closing.
God, it's the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2, and verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
It reads, Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired,
Mm-hmm.
before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you.
So we are instructed to gather together. All right? To gather together. Come together. That takes labor. That is a great undertaking. That takes work. And we should be doing that before the decree bring forth, before the society collapses, before the multitude is kindled against the chosen people of God, right? In the form of the United States government in particular. We should be gathering together. That requires labor. It's a great undertaking. We don't have time. Time is not on our side as it pertains to being idle, as it pertains to being slothful. We need here in the community brothers and sisters with skills that are willing to put them to work, to put them to good use, because we want to be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. Right? We want to be self sustaining in that day. So, this has been the way of idleness. 6 days shall thou labor. And with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High. Did I have any questions? I know a brother earlier, um, he was raising his hand. I don't see him in here anymore. All right. But that usually is what happens when we actually do the lesson and we make the points, and it's not just an argument. Then the arguments go out the window. So with that, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High. Shalom.